they've bought exceptionally good players at the end of the day, and that makes life a little bit easier if you're a manager of Chelsea, I suppose. Of course, you've got to find the right blend and the right balance, and they certainly seem to have got that over the last few weeks. They've scored and I think conceded only 1 in the last 6 games, so they look a very, very good side, and I believe personally that they will be there or thereabouts with the changes they've made.
I'm not sure about the fans. I don't know the answer to the fans one for any game, let alone Newcastle. I think sometimes home fans can bring a pressure, make a team that want to play counter-attacking football feel like they can't do, or different things. So I'm not sure about the fans. What I do know that Newcastle was always a very difficult game. I played in those games and they were difficult. Particularly for us, we had the difficulties of the early kickoff. I'm not using it as an excuse. It's just a fact and a factor for us. And Steve Bruce is a great manager who deserves huge credit for the job he's done there already and organises his team brilliantly. So it's a tough game on all fronts.
Yeah, it will be. It's going to be an entertaining one as well. It's the first match of the weekend, kicking off at lunchtime on Saturday. Newcastle, Chelsea at St James's Park. Tim, Chelsea can actually go top of the table, even if it is just for a couple of hours' time. That'll be a great start to coming back to the Premier League weekend, wouldn't it?
It would be, on paper. I mean, if you listen to reports, especially when Miguel writes, you'd say Chelsea have had a bad season, but I think they've been fantastic. I mean, it's not been the start that they wanted. They would want to win every single football match, but it's not possible. They know it's tough. They're trying to bed in a lot of new signings along with their younger players. So, yeah, if they was to win this game and to go right up the top of the league would be a brilliant return for them, I believe.
Interesting, Miguel, that Frank Lampard says Steve Bruce, a great manager, sets his team up, difficult to beat. Newcastle fans, I keep having this debate on social media with them, that, they think it's an unattractive style of play. Least shots on target, most saves from a goalkeeper, very defensive. Where are Newcastle? Is Steve Bruce underachieving or overachieving with that squad?
I think he's about performing to par. And it's like what Lampard mentioned there, it feels like all the reasons that managers, especially opposition managers, would respect Bruce are the exact reasons the fans might get frustrated, because as an opposition manager, especially for one of the big 6 clubs, you're actually going to get a tough game at Newcastle because they're disciplined, they're hard to break down, but that will create, I suppose, games where it'll feel they're not that ambitious. And I suppose one of the things with Newcastle is their style doesn't change too much from game to game. And let's not forget, to be fair, I mean, Bruce has been a bit of a continuation from Rafa Benitez in that way. Yeah. It's not like the style has changed too much. And I think they're actually one of the most consistent teams in the league, both in terms of how they play, how they set up. Actually, if you look at the results as well, I think for the last while it's been something like win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. So
there's so many stats going about, Bruce's managerial record. You don't manage that many games if you're a poor manager, Tim, do you? And you listen to Newcastle fans, do they want change? As a manager, do you listen to fans? It's all about results. So what is the argument that the style of football, because they want a brand of football, which they used to have under Kevin Keegan, that's what you want to believe. Yeah. Do not Newcastle fans believe they're going to be a Liverpool or Man City? I think the model for Newcastle fans is Leicester, Southampton, Wolverhampton Wanderers. The recruitment policy has been magnificent. Where are Newcastle? As a manager, Tim, do you listen to the fans? They want that style. It's about results, simple as that.
Well, first and foremost, you listen to the owner and Mike Ashley and the board of directors. And what is the objective? When you go in, you say, what is the objective for us? They say, and without question, for Mike Ashley is to stay in the Premier League year on, year out. That's not new. That was something Rafa Benitez had to cope with. When Rafa went in, they said, what do we need to do? Get promoted with the best squad of players that the club's ever had in the Championship. And I believe a lot of managers would have got promoted. And then keep him in the Premier League, which he did. But they scraped the Premier League. Now, I think Steve Bruce has taken them on. He is a fan, don't forget. He stood on that Gallowgate end. He knows what it's like. He knows what they want. We all remember the Kevin Keegan days when they were challenging teams at the top of the Premier League. This is not the final piece of the jigsaw, what he wants. This is not where Steve Bruce wants to be. But he needs to stay in the Premier League. I believe they'll stay in the Premier League comfortably this season, and then he can build from there. But he has put some flair players into there. Callum Wilson's got in there, goal scorer. He's took Fraser. He's got Sam Maximin, who I believe, when you talk about fans there, and they asked Frank Lampard about the fans, are they going to miss the fans? I think that is a player that the fans he would help. He would help the fans because they love a maverick there. They love someone getting them off the tee, like Almiron, you know, who runs at people. I think he's suffering because the fans are not there. Now, is Steve Bruce suffering because the fans are not there? No. I think he's benefiting to the fact that the fans are not there because I know every club's the same, not just Newcastle fans, but it seems like in this country it's always the Newcastle fans who want that little bit more. They want the sexy football. At the moment, it's horses for courses. Get results, Steve. This is the way he believes with what he's at his disposal. He's going to get results by playing a certain way. It's no different to how Rafa plays, as Miguel talked about earlier. It's pretty much carbon copy. Get results, shut up shop, keep us in the Premier League, and then move us on. Slow. He got to step slow. He can't climb the top of the ladder straight away. You've got to be very careful what you wish for. If you rip it up, try and play expansive football, you can end up in a championship. And that's the last thing they want.
So Steve Bruce has got to gradually get sexier then, Miguel. Is that what Tim's saying?
Maybe, yeah. Can he do that at this point?
Yeah, that's the question, though, isn't it? Because are we going to see that under Steve Bruce?
I think it's ultimately, as you say, it is about consolidation in the Premier League. And then it's almost like they kind of walk a tightrope in that regard. I mean, just in terms of what you're saying there about there is an inherent risk if you try and go from one style, which is a kind of a steady, safe style, to something more expansive. And Brighton, to be fair to them, they ran that risk by, discarding Houghton and bringing in Potter. And I mean, a few clubs, Stoke tried it as well, worked for a while, and then eventually it all caved in. Although I think that was for reasons beyond the football they were playing. But it does have that. There's a danger for a club to do it. I mean, it was a very brave decision.
I think Southampton have done it successfully.
Yeah.
We've gone from Claude Puel, they were bored with watching his football. Hasselhout has gone in there and he's changed them. But it's taken time. They're on the back of some hidings, they've got less than 9, where we feel like we have to talk about, we talk about Southampton, we have to talk about their 9, with Leicester. But they've gone on from there, they've moved on, and this is the way, and it's a stepping stone. And at the moment, I think Steve, and I go back to it, Steve is a Newcastle fan. He doesn't want, this is not the end of his journey, he doesn't want the team to continue to play like this. But get yourself safe, and then maybe you can play a little bit more expansive. Just
the last one on Newcastle and Steve Bruce. Lots of interaction I get on social media from Newcastle fans is, because Steve Bruce is such a good guy, and everybody in the media, all the ex-pundits, all the pundits, like him because he's such a great fella. He gets a better understanding from members of the press. I don't think that's right, is it?
No, it's not right. No, as far as I'm concerned, I judge everyone by what the results are coming. It's only we say what we see. And if it's not pretty to watch, but is he getting results? Is 13 a good return for where Newcastle's squad of players should be? Yes, absolutely. Is it any different to Rafa Benitez? I can't see much difference.
What's a good return?
But they lauded Rafa Benitez. That's the point I'm making. The Newcastle fans lauded him.
There was a different dynamic there as well, isn't it? Because, obviously there's been this long-term tension between the owner and the fans at Newcastle, whereas it felt like Rafa specifically went on the side of the fans and kind of whipped up a little bit of that, whereas Bruce has basically been just a bit more measured and in between, which really has to be. I mean, it's been an issue for Rafa throughout a few jobs.
What's a good return for Chelsea in this season, to Frank?
For Roman Abramovich to finish in the Champions League and win a trophy, in my opinion. For me, looking into Chelsea, I think top 4. I think top 4. I don't think that they can. I think they could possibly win the league, because it's so open. Liverpool's injury problems, Man City a little bit stuttering of a start, Tottenham and Chelsea are the only other 2 teams I believe can win the Premier League out of Man City and Liverpool.
OK, when you look at the balance in this Chelsea squad now, Miguel, there's been a bit of time for the new signings to bed in. We've seen Hakim Ziyech start the last 2 games for Chelsea and been involved in goals in both of those matches. Is he the real deal? Yeah,
I think definitely. I mean, he can be a little bit... I don't want to say he can't, not dependable, but maybe there's a bit more of a wildness to his game than some of Chelsea's other attackers. But of course, the flip side of that is there's more creativity to it too, and I think that's what he's given them maybe. Because in the first few games of the season without Ziyech, I was at a fair few Chelsea games, and I felt like they were just maybe a little bit flat given the attacking talent they had. Whereas he's come in now and they just look so much more vibrant. So maybe he'll kind of pin it together and allow everyone else to play off him. It also feels like Lampard is a bit closer over the last few games to knowing what his best front 6, say, is.
Yeah, go on, Jules.
No, I was just saying, what is that front six then? What do you think it is? Because at the moment, Pulisic's still out.
I know.
So when he's fit, how does he fit into that?
Well, this is the thing, and you do wonder as well, given Pulisic's pace, whether he might be a bit of an impact player for Chelsea as much as anything, and someone that comes on and stretches defences. Because at the moment, it feels like Lampard is. I mean, the players in the team at the moment suit what Lampard wants to do more.
Frank's not got a problem at the top end of the field, is he?
No.
I mean, there's so many players there. You know, the problem is when you're a player and you're amongst it, is are you going to get the run of games? For me, Ziyech looks like a player who's got that swagger of a top draw player. When I hear him talk, it's almost like I need to be on that pitch because I can make the difference. We know at the back end of last season, Pulisic was outstanding. You know, you got Mount coming into there. You got Kai Havertz. You got Timo Werner, Tammy Abraham, Joe Roux. You know, that is not their problem. Midfield is good as well. The problem is defensively. Can they sort out the defence? I think they've come. Thiago Silva's been an outstanding signing. I think Mendy in goal has really shored them up. So you have to give them a chance. If it's not going to be Liverpool and it's not going to be Man City, they're certainly going to be in the mix.
So is there more an emphasis now on Kante to play as that? You know, number 6, because we've seen him play as an 8, you know, either side they play a 3, on the right-hand side of the 3. You know, if you're Frank, do you play Kante as that 6 to protect the 2 centre-halves? Because you've got so many attacking players. We see Chilwell getting forward, scoring goals. Reece James, fantastic, getting up the right-hand side. How much of an emphasis is it on Conte for that?
The thing is, when Conte's been at his best, I suppose, is like the 2 title-winning seasons in 2016 and 2017, he's almost like a one-man defence because he covers so much ground and wins so much ball. And that is the real advantage of him. And maybe, Lampard probably hasn't seen him at that peak just yet. But if he can get him close to that, it will solve a lot of problems for Chelsea.
I think he's realised now the way at Burnley, he played him in there on his own. He played more technical players ahead of him. And I think he's still technically good, Kante. Don't get me wrong. But Miguel's absolutely right. He does a job of 2 men. He doesn't need anyone in there protect. You don't need Juninho in there with him. He can do it on his own. He loves to cover that ground. He's got the energy of 2 guys in there. He wins the ball. He's got no self-indulgence and he gives it to the players in front of him who can play.
In terms of the game itself, Chelsea don't have the best record at St James's Park recently. They lost their last season and Newcastle have actually only lost 1 of their last 7 times they've played Chelsea at St James's Park. But will Chelsea have too much tomorrow?
I mean, you'd think so. And I suppose, given that Lampard has mentioned the fans before the game as well, just will the current situation distort? I mean, it's already doing it to kind of home and away records this season. And it might well do it to this game where Chelsea have that poor record at St James's Park. I think it was particularly an issue under Mourinho. He made a point of it, the fact that he won there with Spurs. But I think Chelsea may just have too much in that regard. It won't be such a factor in this game.
Tim, what do you think the result's going to be?
I think I'd love to be in Chelsea's dressing room rather than Steve Bruce in Newcastle's because of the wealth of ammunition they've got in forward areas. I think they'll cause Newcastle all sorts of problems and they'll win the game.